Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another monthly favorites because another month has gone by and it is time for us to chat about July monthly favorites and flops but stationery edition. So if you are brand new and you have never met me before, well, hello, how are you? My name is Meshi and I'm the person behind Align Plans. We chat about anything and everything, minimalist planning, journaling, all the things. But I also kind of wanted to add a little bit of a caveat to that because we do that with intention so that you end up actually using the things that you have instead of just constantly over consuming and actually allow these tools to improve your life. So, if that sounds good, then maybe consider subscribing if you have not yet had a chance to. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about all the things that worked really well for the month of July. We'll spend a little bit of time in reflection. What were some of the flops? And by flops, I actually don't mean that those were products that didn't work, but they just didn't fulfill their ultimate purpose, if you will. Now, I encourage you guys to do the same every month where you kind of look at all of your stash, your stationery, your tools, and your systems that you're using and kind of see what is working really well for you and what were the results and what were the things that were not so great, because that's sort of where there's that space where you can actually improve. So that's sort of the whole point of this video, so that we can kind of take a look at what's working without really feeling like we need to consume more and why that shift has happened, without getting too deep into this. So the categories, what are the categories? I'm so glad you asked. So the categories that we're going to be looking at is planners and planners and journal systems. We're going to be looking at decor, pens and inks, accessories, and then some of the flops or fails. Okay, let's get started. First and foremost, I know that most of you were really deep into one book July, and for those of you that did, congratulations. I applaud you for condensing your system down into one booklet. I did not partake in that, and I haven't for a couple of years. If you wanted to see all the reasons as to why, I will just put it in the cards here so you can take a look. I did use my systems, and what July was for me, it was essentially a month where I streamlined. So in a way, I guess that was my way of partaking in the trend, but I streamlined and I created systems so that I make my life a million times easier and more. It was able to flow more so that I can actually enjoy my summer rather than just constantly being project manager. So let's take a look at what was working. And I know that we were kind of talking about the mid-year update with the Traveler's Notebook. So I wanted to hop right into this. As you notice, we have a new cover. So mind you, I don't necessarily want to talk too much about the cover because I just bought this like a week and a half ago. So technically end of August, technically end of July, but if you want to talk about this as a monthly favorite, by all means, feel free to include it. The magic is not so much the cover, but this is actually an olive cover in case you're wondering. But that's not really what I wanted to talk to you about. What I wanted to mention is actually the system inside of this beautiful thing. What has shifted is actually it's this guy. This is by far taking the cake for me. So this single insert is by far the star of the show right now. So far, if you remember, it used to be this guy. It used to be the weekly. It used to be this printed weekly that I would kind of dump anything and everything into. And I have to say, it's still winning, but I'm not offloading as much information here. I'm not spending so much time here as I am spending time here. So the way that I'm kind of using this, so first of all, the way that I'm kind of using this is I'm almost attempting to use one page for one day as a daily planning. However, sometimes I fit 2 days in one page, and I'm not really mad at that because it allows me to do pen testing if that's what I want to do. It allows me to kind of just dump any information that is actually relevant, but it leaves enough space for me to create enough categories where I don't feel like I need to push that into the weekly, or I need to offload everything into the weekly. Like, I have adequate amount of space for pretty much everything. So right now we have about 2 days per page, but sometimes I take the entire page and that's totally cool. Sometimes I'm just using this more as a commonplace book. So really, really similar to the way that I would be using a Hobonichi Weeks. but slightly different still. And I like that I can add like these little decor pieces, but I don't have to overload it ridiculously. Here, I think we actually have 3 days that I was using it for. Not mad at it at all. So far it's going well. What I think I have to be a little bit more mindful of is to also give equal amounts of playtime to the weekly, because now I'm kind of neglecting the weekly and I'm not filling it out fully. So that's, that's a no-no in my opinion. So I mean, I will update this and I will decorate it and do all the things. And maybe if you guys want to see a separate plan with me video, because I honestly I haven't done the one for a while. Anyway, if you want to see one, please comment below. I'm happy to record it for you guys so you can check that out. But I definitely, this insert, I'm so glad that I did this, because it's actually reducing the amount of planners I have to reach for, because like everything is condensed into one system. The other thing that I mentioned to you before, and it's not in here, it's just right on my desk right now, is actually the monthly. I started using the monthly slightly differently, and the way that I used it for the month of July has been wonderful. And I will 100% continue to use this. Again, if you want a more in-depth breakdown of what has shifted right after that video that I recorded, let me know. I would love to kind of walk you through of how I'm actually using this. But we have all of these subcategories. We have the priorities and then some of the base core things that I really don't want to shift. And I'm going to be picking different ones for each month. So I have things like daycare, personal, finance, social media, and I'm also able to include the wellness in here as well, which is really nice. So it just kind of gives me more of an overview of what I'm planning for the month. And that same trend is going to be continuing on the monthlies going forward. I don't necessarily keep this with me all the time, but sometimes I like to just throw it in here so in case there's something relevant that comes up. But it's one of those things where I more just update it and then I kind of move on. So there's that. But like I said, this is by far winning. Side note, not that this needs to be like a monthly favorites or like this big spectacular event. I really just wanted an excuse to show you. But I recently went to Wonder Pens and I got their little stamp. And then I also got the official Traveler's Notebook, the Traveler's Company stamp. So I got one here and I got this one, which looks really cute. So I really just wanted to show you guys. I thought that they looked really awesome. I had a hard time with one of the stamps so that it would show up really clear. Let me just see where else I put it. So I put it here at the front, but the ink was, and then I put it in the very back. So you can kind of see it a little bit better. I tried my best to make sure that it's a nice balanced stamp, but sometimes that can go either way. The Diner one obviously worked a lot better. This is on Tomo River paper, so I wonder if that had anything to do with it. I don't know. Anyway, that's it about Traveler's Notebook. What I wanted to mention with the little guy with the passport, did I bring it here? Yes, I did. So with this one, it's fulfilling a totally different purpose now. It's still an on-the-go companion. However, I'm finding that I can actually dump a lot more ideas here. I'm still very religious with updating the weekly. And I like that I'm leaving space for like sometimes larger decor. I'm like the style and the format hasn't changed. So that I'm going to continue to use that. And I really like this little guy just because it's so easy to update it and I can kind of add anything and everything that I want. I'm not sure I'm sticking with the color coding. That part I kind of struggle with sometimes, but when I remember, I added. But did I actually leave any of these stickers here? See, it would make sense if I left some of those dot stickers here, because then, we would have a flowy system. But, we're improving as we go. Maybe I left it here. I have some of it here, yeah. Not a ton, but clearly we need to adjust that immediately so that this whole system can be nice and happy. I still love this. Like, this is definitely one of those things that's coming with me on the go, because now I find that this is slowly replacing the functions that the Hobonichi Weeks was playing. Speaking of Hobonichi Weeks, I mean, just sense my hesitation here, but with the Hobonichi weeks, and I think maybe we will revive her for the month of August as we're shifting closer and closer to Hobonichi season, but it wasn't getting a lot of playtime, clearly, because most of the information that I was using was actually going into the Traveler's Notebook. And honestly, like I use the Traveler's Notebook so differently than how I actually think of using the Hobonichi weeks. So at this point, I'm still using it, but I'm just not using it as excessively. So like for the month of July, if I'm just looking back on the month of July itself, all the way up to the 30th and 31st, I was still very religiously using it. Not checking in with it daily, but I mean pretty consistent, like starting all the way from like June or July, like at the very beginning of July. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I have very mixed feelings because sometimes I use it excessively and other times I just kind of let this simmer. And like it started in July 10th all the way up to July 31st. So I guess like I was just using it for the 2 days. It's fine, but it's definitely not the same feeling as if I use the larger TN. And it's so funny because somebody actually just recently asked me about not just to do a comparison, but like really what the fundamental difference was between the two and how I end up using it. And it's hard for me to answer this like clearly because if I'm looking at the weeklies, I think the last time that I officially updated it was like at the very beginning of July. So like I said, right now I think Hobonichi weeks is right now just taking a little rest break period. And then I'm kind of calling it as that. I'm okay that we skipped the whole month of July and then I can just kind of pick it up where I left off. But it's like a to be determined, and I will talk to you about this at the very end of the video when we kind of make it to the flops, but that's all I'm going to say about this right now. And moving on to pens and inks. Pens, I don't have new pens because I didn't buy any. Actually, no, I do. I'm totally lying. I do have one brand new pen. This is the Pilot Kakuno. I would love to actually buy all their colors because they're so pretty. And I'm buying them for like $22. Like they're so inexpensive. And for some reason, these are hitting like slightly differently in how I'm using them than the way that I would be using like my beloved Kaweco. I love these. And obviously that's kind of why they're included in the monthly favorites over and over again because I really like the Kaweco Sports. But right now, like the way that I'm actually using the Kakunos, I find them to be just a little bit smoother. So I bought a new one. This is also in a fine tip. So these two are fine nib and this is in a medium nib. And I'm not really noticing that this is very obnoxiously like heavy in like the ink flow. Not the same way that sometimes like my fine nib Kaweco Sport would be like really runny and really rich. And if you want, like I'll just pop in a close-up of both ink swatches so you understand what I'm saying. But actually, let me just show you right now. And here's a Kaweco Sport. See how they almost look identical? It doesn't make it wrong. It just is. You know what I mean? So it's not that it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that the fine nib in the Kaweco behaves almost like the Pilot's fine nib. So, you know, do with that information as you will. But I like both, but I have to be in a mood for one over the other. Basically, that's ultimately what it comes down to. As for inks, and let me just go through the rest of the pens. So the other ones that are, not that it's new, like I already have one, but I really wanted to buy a new one. This is like more like a rose, I'm going to call this more like a rose gold. It says peony. It does not feel like a peony to me. This kind of feels like more like a soft marbly rose kind of situation. And this is from it's a Uniball 1 pen in like the mini chunky size. Again, really mimicking the feel of the Kaweco. So obviously I definitely have a preference for like these shorter chubby pens. And this is in a 0.5 thickness. Love it. There's like really, this is one of those things where you just kind of throw onto your your traveler's notebook or onto any of your like notebooks and then call it a day. That's kind of why I wanted to buy it, because it's just, to me, it's just like a no-brainer. Still going strong with Pentel Energel. Sometimes I do find that this is a little bit too thick for my liking, but I still really love this. This is definitely one of my favorites right now. And can't go wrong with Sarasa Clip. I really love the design that they have done on this. So that makes this a little bit, it just kind of stands out. You know what I mean? Like the barrel just kind of stands out to me. And I have returned back to, this is the Uniball Signo in a 1mm thickness. I find that this is one of those things where, like, if I wanted to really highlight something, or if I'm writing, let's say in the traveler's notebook, I actually have a preference for this because everything just runs a little bit smoothly and it's a very bold, very rich type of writing experience. So, and I'm slowly returning back to both of the sailors. I love these pens, but I find that the way that they write is still very fine in comparison to the smoothness of Pilot. So I kind of switch back and forth between the two just so that other inks also have the opportunity to kind of run wild and free. And speaking of inks, I did pick up a few samples. Now, I don't know if this introduces like any variety into my stash or not, but I'm just going to talk about it. But what we've got is, it's got like a nice variety. So we've got some Pilots, some Sailor Kobe. I actually got like this grayish color, which is really nice. So I really love that. I also bought Ferris Wheel Press. I haven't bought a Ferris Wheel Press color in like a minute. So I actually really love this color. And of course, we can't go wrong with both Pilot, a couple of Pilot colors and a couple of Sailor colors. Sailor Kobe has been going strong for me. And I actually like this, to me, just feels very like July, August appropriate. So that's really going well. And I also wanted to try this Diamine color. And hopefully the light kind of picks it up. It does have like a bit of glitter included in there. So hopefully you can kind of see that. Very beautiful colors. I honestly have no complaints about any one of them because they're all really pretty. So these were definitely what has been going really well for the month of July. And moving into, obviously I couldn't like load up my pens with all of them. So we're definitely going to be talking about what has been going strong for the month of August. I also wanted to mention, while we're still on the topic of inks, in case you haven't tried this yet, this is just a total side note, especially if you have Kaweikos. I got into the little cartridges. I got into like the little cartridges from Kaweiko, and it started out with just like a couple, but now I ended up basically buying all the colors because they're so convenient. So I have Midnight Blue here. I bought a black one for obvious reasons. I have the Summer Purple, and then now just recently I was able to pick up Ruby Red. So currently I have Ruby Red in here. Happy to report that when I was loading up, remember how like a couple months ago when I was loading up like a really bright color in here, like the color just kind of went everywhere. So now with the ink cartridge, I don't like the barrel is not swimming in ink anymore, which is really nice. And I have a really nice, beautiful, bright color. So, you know, that's a win for me. But I wanted to show you a swatch so you can see it. Let's just use this. This is a white paper. So I think that this would show up really nice. Side note, this, okay. So this might be mixing a little bit with this. Like I had this here. So I had the Summer Purple in before, and I just popped in the Ruby Red because I'm an impatient person, but you will get the idea. It still looks, red mixed with purple, whatever. You get the idea. But I will just pop also, for those of you that are like really thrive on accuracy and pure representation, I will just pop a picture here so that you can see an actual swatch. But right now, like as it's mixing, I'm not mad about it. So, you know, do with that information as you will. Now, moving on to Decor, now that we've talked about like a million pens here, And obviously, I have to say, having both the cartridges and a couple of the Kaweco, like the bottles, the full bottles of ink, it has made it so much simpler for me to ink these Kaweco sports, because now I know it's like, oh, this one has brown or this one has the green. Because like I naturally, it's so funny. Like I naturally gravitate towards the colors that kind of represent, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm naturally gravitating that brand to that ink. Even though I like I totally know that I could put those inks into other pens, but somehow that just kind of feels wrong. The other thing that I cannot wait to actually try out, I haven't had a chance to try it out, so I don't really, this is again just like a little asterisk. Just kind of take this information with a grain of salt, but I did buy this in my recent haul. This is from Pilot, and this is just their blue inks cartridges. Again, I thought, I'm like, since we're so successful with the Kaweco Sports, why not try just a normal blue ink? And we have like 6 of them, and worst case scenario, we can clean this out and we can fill it up with other inks. And but then like now I have like extra cartridges for my Pilot. We'll see how it goes. I will keep you guys posted for the month of August, because I will just report back. The other thing that, like, just staying on pens for just like half a moment, I think I mentioned this before about the dot markers. I'm still using these, and I actually found this recently as well. This is in the Mocha. So these are the Join Dots by Midori, and like the colors are so pretty. So these are like, this is like a dark gray. This is more like a mustard yellow and a darker brown. So see it. Again, like it's one of those things like, why didn't I buy this sooner? You know what I mean? But here, let me see if I can just write it here. So it's just like a very relatable, like everyday colors that you can't really go wrong with. So if you're looking for something where you don't constantly have to like bring like a whole bunch of dot markers, I think that these are actually awesome. Okay, that's it about pens. I promise. Talking about a little bit about Decor, I actually picked up a few things just recently, and I think that just speaks to just my general preference to the type of Decor stickers that I'm naturally gravitated towards. But I picked up a few things. Mostly it's all Mindwave actually. I really love these press-on stickers. Obviously, these vibe ones where it's just like it's coffee. A couple of these seasonal ones where it's like this one is summer, this one is more like moving into winter time or fall. Again, like these are just it's such easy. It's just such an easy, like just grab it, use it when you need it type of sticker. So I really love those. And then the other ones that are also new, and I think I loaded everything up in my traveler's notebook. Yes, like these are so pretty. I think these are also Mindwave as well. This was, again, like you can tell, like I pretty much use this up, and I was using this pretty heavily in the month of July. So if I see more of these, I will probably buy them. I have another one that's like more like a cleaning one. So these are lots of fun. And then I also really, really love just like these seasonal ones. You know what I mean? Like this is more like a watercolor one. And then these are like just a very cozy, like I think that this will be more relevant, more moving into the fall more than anything else. But I mean, I also love having like just these little ones on hand just based on, you know, what I'm trying to highlight or where I'm trying to add it. And since we're on the topic, that's it about Decor, really. It's mainly just these guys and a couple of these lifestyle PET tapes. I was really dying to just kind of update my stash for PET tapes. So this was actually from Paper Plus Cloth. And you can see why I like this. Just because everything, it just shifts and it's just very subtle. But it's large enough that, you know, you can just kind of like with a couple of pieces, you can actually do a full spread if you really wanted to. And then you don't have to reach for like 5 other stickers. These I have been actually looking for quite some time. Let's do this without ruining my nails, shall we? I will pop the name of these specific ones here because they make, and I can't even remember the company. I want to say Mindwave, but I don't think that that's true. I think it's someone else that makes them. But there is one. So this one is very like home, house. There's like plants, couch, whatever. I like these just based on, you know, what I'm journaling about. Then there's one that's more like birds, and then one that's like lights. This one is like the light bulbs, which is really fun. And then I have another one that has all the birds on it. So I tend to carry all of them because you never know when inspiration hits, and that's usually when you want to kind of use these. But I remember I had one. It's the same style as the winter theme one. Once I saw the winter theme ones, again, we're not going to use this right now, obviously. Hardest thing is to get them going. So this is like their winter theme one, which will be really pretty in like October, November, December. It's not year specific. Look how pretty that is. So I would highly recommend something like this because it's inexpensive and it lasts you a long time. And honestly, every time I see this available, I always just grab it. And especially with Paper Plus Cloth, sometimes they have everything that I want. Other times they completely sell out very quickly, and then they don't really restock certain styles. So it's always kind of hit and miss. But if you love that style of sticker, that PET tape, also check out Stationery Selection because they sell that same set. And I mean, I've shopped around everywhere to find these, and those were like usually the two places that I can find them without any issues. Moving on to accessories. Not a ton of accessories to mention. The main ones that I really wanted to mention, okay, like we kind of briefly talked about, this is obviously the new cover. I really like the new cover. It feels very blank, very new, very fresh, very, very demure. I'm not sure. I mean, at the moment I would love to be able to just get this customized or to have one that is fully custom made for me. So that's definitely on my wish list from Baumkuchen, but I'm pretty sure that there's going to be a Baumkuchen haul coming up soon because I would love to get new patches that are really just, it's really like olive cover. You know what I mean? Like once you get like a new cover, first of all, like I want to be able to just kind of get used to it, break it in. It feels very like not me yet. You know what I mean? So, but I'm definitely liking this. And obviously, I don't have like a ton of accessories to share because there wasn't really a lot of accessories that I was using for the month of July. It was very much just like pen to paper type of month for me. I have to mention this. This is definitely an honorable mention because I can't believe I waited this long to buy this. This is a Midori. It's just a tearaway pad. It's so simple, and I think everybody needs this in their life. It's large enough where I can write on it. It's not a sticky note. I don't have to worry about it being sticky. It's just like the simplest things. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's the simplest things that get me, and I just have such a joy having them and using them. Like I kind of feel that way about these little ink cartridges where I'm just like why did I wait this long to buy this? This is so great. So, you know, that's how I feel about that. Okay, now the not so favorites part. So the few things that I wanted to mention, and again, I'm going to give you the disclaimer again. Not that any of you ever really misunderstood me when it comes to that, but I do think that it's important to mention this at every video just because sometimes people misunderstand your intentions. So let's get clear. When I say flops, I don't mean that the products are bad. I just mean that they didn't work for me for what I was using them for, and there you go. One thing I wanted to say before I move on to flops is actually back to like just accessories in general. This is more like a lifestyle kind of update. And I know that I mentioned in some of my previous videos back in the day that I did start using more gel manicures. And I wanted to highlight two really beautiful colors this month because I currently have it on my nails. And honestly, this has been something that I've been using regularly. And it is Gel Care's BB Cream. So this one is like a sheer, as you can tell, it's like a sheer pink, but it kind of like, I like it because it like kind of hides imperfections, but then it lasts really well. And then and underneath that, we have Rose Water by Nail Thoughts. And Nail Thoughts and Cocoas, this is a collaboration that they've done. And if you've never tried, just zoom in. If you've never tried builder gels, so these are a little bit thicker in consistency, as you can tell. But what this does is it kind of creates like a nice little layer on my nails, and then the ends don't chip and they last really, really well. So the combo that I'm currently wearing is these two guys. So if you're looking for something that's nice, and first of all, these guys are Canadian. So if you're looking for something to like actually support a Canadian business, please get gel care, because you order something and then you get it within like 2 days, which is really great. And then with Rose Water, Nail Thoughts are like in Rose Water. This is actually one of their newer colors. It gets so pretty. I would love to show you a swatch on my nails, but I don't have to because it's already on my nails. Yes. So, you know, if you want like a really pretty, like clean girl kind of mani, I would highly recommend them. Okay, let me just talk to you briefly about flops. They're not flops, but obviously we already kind of briefly talked about how the Hobonichi Weeks wasn't really getting too much of a playtime, and for obvious reasons, because I was obviously didn't get too much of a playtime, but that's okay. I don't know. I just wasn't really reaching for it nearly as often. I think I will be reaching for it far more for the month of August, because now the new releases are coming. So the shift and the attention kind of gets brought back here. And potentially we're going to be giving her a new purpose, which I probably wouldn't mind anyway. I think that this is going to be more related to me using this more like a business tool alongside the traveler's notebook, rather than just, you know, like it's almost like it can be like an on the go little like project management tool versus just a daily planner. So that's just sort of my initial idea about that. This is not about, well, so the other one that I wanted to highlight is a Take a Note. Take a Note is, I'm relatively consistent with it, but I wasn't using it very much for the month of July. I mean, there's a minimum skipped 3 weeks. There you go. I skipped at least 2 weeks. I tried to come back at the end of July, and then I didn't really fill it out. I don't know. It was okay. I came back for last week and that was good, but then like current week hasn't been filled out, and I will fill this out, but I'm not making space for, and especially for the month of July, I was not making space for me to write literally anything in here. So because of that, I think that this is an important thing to note, because if I know that I'm not religiously and regularly using these planners, these larger planners, whether it's a Take a Note or the Hobonichi Han, then it brings the question forward of, do we need this? Do we need this so that we have an outlet for capturing family memories? Because if I'm not capturing them, if I'm not taking the time to do them, then it's sort of like, why did we buy the booklet? So I'm not necessarily mad that I have the booklet, but I'm just saying it's important to make this distinction that if you're not regularly checking in with that journal or that planner, and you're not taking the time to actually journal inside of it because you're not drawn to do that, that's an important thing to note, to just, let's put a pin there to make sure that when it's planner season, which right now we're slowly inching into the startup planner season, I'm kind of mentioning this because it's important for me to note to not waste money on it unintentionally. You know what I mean? Because I might have the best of intentions, and then after that, I'm just like, I just don't have mental bandwidth to even write anything here, or I'm repeating information, which was always sort of my issue in the beginning, that I don't want to have like 5 different planners and journals if I'm not using them, you know? And Hibino is kind of just like sitting there, because especially like if I'm just reflecting onto the month of July, I definitely didn't use this. I can tell you this right now. I'm looking back and I see how many blank pages I left there, and there's a lot of them. And I did make an attempt to use this more regularly. And I do like this still as a daily journal, but sometimes I literally just write. And, you know, and this is not a reflection of like the entire journal system as a whole, but I'm just saying, if I'm looking back just a month of July, it wasn't used heavily. Like there are some days where I did set it up pretty well, and then after that I just kind of left it blank. You know what I mean? So And it's definitely something to keep in mind that, you know, I try my best to, sometimes I set up the whole spread and then I leave it blank, you know? So that's just what it is, that sometimes I just don't have the mental bandwidth for this, and that's totally fine. But at the same time, I just want to make a note of it, that these were definitely flops in my opinion. And same thing with like some of these highlighters where I have them, but I need to literally force myself into like color code your stuff. And I think partially I'm kind of happier having a set like this where the 3 colors are already here rather than me trying to like use separate highlighters for everything. I'm trying to simplify. I'm trying to simplify my system as much as possible, just so that I'm not constantly feeling like, oh, great, I have to make a decision about that too. And decision fatigue is definitely a real thing, definitely a real thing for me, especially when I'm trying to do multiple things all at once. So these were just definitely something that kind of making note of that maybe that didn't work as well as I would have hoped. So this brings me to the question of the day. Please let me know, what was something that was working really well for you that you have been absolutely loving for the month of July? I would love to know. And also, if you took part in One Book July, please let me know that as well, and just share your thoughts on what worked and what didn't. And this is basically all I wanted to share with you. I hope that you're having a fantastic summer still. I hope that you are doing really great and you have enjoyed this video. If you did, you can obviously support the channel by just being here, by subscribing and hitting the notification bell, doing, you know, all the things that are required. But in the meanwhile, keep planning, keep journaling, keep doing all the things. And I cannot wait to see you guys in my next video. Bye.